Hi, welcome to the next and what will be the last video because on the first week of June we're gonna leave it just for the semester projects, so we're not gonna work with those videos and activities anymore. So today's a session a bit of unit. On the previous day we start with some review activities, and today I just decided to skip the unit and go straight to the climate of Spain, which will be another unit analyzing the different relief units of Spain and its climate, its vegetation. So I just included the Spanish climate in the unit of temperatures, precipitations, weather. So let's go. Before we start talking about the different climatic elements of Spain, or that are found in Spain, we're going to start with the climate factors, or the climatic factors. As you may remember, a factor is an element, something that modifies or influences, in this case, the climate. Spain, obviously you know, is located inside the temperate climatic area. The temperate climatic area was the middle part of the Earth, both in the north and southern hemisphere, and is located between the tropics and the poles. In this case, Spain obviously located between the Tropic of Cancer and the North Pole. Let's hear about the different factors. We are gonna analyze and learn 5 different factors. The first one is the latitude. As you can imagine, Spain is located in a low-medium latitude between, as it is shown here, 36 degrees and 43 degrees north. 33 degrees will be the southern part of Andalusia, and here at 43 degrees will be the northern areas, obviously excluding the Canary Islands. The Canary Islands are located in lower latitude, far south, the Iberian Peninsula. So excluding the Canary Islands, the Spain and the Iberian Peninsula is located between, more or less, give or take, 36 and 43 degrees north, which means that the temperatures are typically mild, but the Iberian Peninsula is pretty close to the tropic, which means that temperatures are fairly higher than in for example, the central areas of Europe, and precipitations are lower. The only exception to this rule is the north of Spain: Galicia, Asturias, Cantabria, Basque Country. All those, they got pretty mild temperatures and pretty high precipitations. But the other 80% of the Iberian Peninsula, it follows this factor, or it's heavily influenced by the factor of latitude. The next one, first let's see the picture here. As you can see, between 36 degrees and 43 degrees north, give or take. The second factor is the altitude. Spain and the Iberian Peninsula, it has a significant altitude, average altitude, up to 660 meters. Compared with other countries of Europe, this is pretty high, compared with France, Germany, England. So yeah, having or living at this altitude, it has a major effect on temperatures and atmospheric pressure. As you may remember, temperature gets lower as you start rising in altitude, and it happens the opposite with the atmospheric pressure. The atmospheric pressure is lower in higher areas. This is a relief map of Spain, or the Spanish Iberian Peninsula. So you can see here all those areas from the North Central Plateau, the South Central Plateau, they are pretty high. Obviously, the major mountain chains like the Pyrenees, the Cantabrian Mountains, the Lion Mountains, Montes de Leon, central system here, Iberic system, the Vedic system, those make the or forces the Spain to have a pretty high altitude. As long as or with these pretty high areas, we can also find several depressions like the depression of the Guadalquivir or the depression of the Ebro. Let's hear about other factors. Another major one is the influence from the sea. As you remember, I'm sure of it, the influence or having water masses pretty close to an emerged area causes temperatures to be moderate. It means that in summer temperatures are not as high as they should be, and it follows the opposite direction in winter. In winter, the temperatures are not as cold as they should be, because huge water masses help to regulate temperature. As you can see here, Spain is surrounded by water masses: Atlantic Ocean and the western and northern side, and the Mediterranean Sea on the eastern side. And this is a map showing the temperature variation. So being surrounded by a lot of water masses means that temperature variation is pretty low in the coastal areas and some parts of the inner or interior areas. Obviously, there is exception of the rule. Observe this huge stain here in Madrid and Castilla-La Mancha, as here. The temperature variation is pretty high, over than 20 degrees. But the effect of the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea are noted here on the coastal areas. So you can see between 12 and 16 degrees on the south and southeast, and between 8 and 12 degrees Celsius on the north. Obviously, the Canary Islands, they are pretty special, and they will be analyzed individually. Then another factor is the land formations in Spain. As I already told you, Spain is a country with a really high elevation, which means that there are several mountain chains in his land relief. Those mountain chains, or more or less the disposition of those mountain chains, the location of those mountain chains, there are pretty heavily effects on temperatures and precipitations. So as you can see here, the Cantabric mountain chain and the Pyrenees, as well as with the Vedic system, they are mountain chains that limit the influence coming from the Mediterranean and the Atlantic Sea. So temperature variation will be higher here because of the effect of those mountain chains. As it happens with temperatures, it also happens with precipitations. Orographic rainfall tends to happen here, alright, here, and in the Pyrenees, as well as in the central system, which means that humid air masses, they are just gonna push rain on the mountain chains, and they are gonna go to the other side completely dry. That's why, for example, in the northern areas of Spain, rainfall is pretty common here on the northern side of the Cantabric Mountains and the mountains of Leon. Oops, sorry about that. Yeah. Finally, the last factor is wind. The Iberian Peninsula is located in a pretty key area and suffers the influence of a lot of different winds. But I want you to just remember a couple of them. The first one is the polar Arctic winds. Those winds are coming from the north of the Iberian Peninsula, coming from the north and northwest, Typically those winds are pretty humid, and they help here in the northern side of the Iberian Peninsula to have pretty high precipitations. Alright, here you got it, cold and humid. It means that when this wind is blowing south, temperatures are gonna get down and humidity will rise. The next and second wind I want you to remember are the tropical winds. The tropical winds, they come from the southern areas, typically from Morocco, Algeria, and they come from the Sahara. So as you can imagine, this wind stream coming from south to north, hitting here pretty heavily. Those are different kind of winds. Those winds are hot and dry, which means that they're not helping precipitations, and then tend to influence temperature by rising them. Alright. Obviously, we are just not taking in consideration atmospheric pressure to establish the different wind streams we can have here. Alright, let's talk about the different type of climates we can find in Spain. As I already told you at the beginning of the video, Spain is located in the temperate areas, which means that the climates are going to be temperate, Mediterranean and oceanic mostly, with some variations. Obviously, we got the alpine or high mountain climate in specific points. I will point them to you. And we got a special climate on the Canary Islands. But let's start with the most common type of climate, the Mediterranean one. The Mediterranean one is, as I said, the most common, and it's located here in all the centers, center north of the Iberian Peninsula, south, east, southwest. All this, excluding obviously the purple stains, which are the alpine climate. All this is part of the Mediterranean climate. So as you can see here, it's pretty common through the Iberian Peninsula. However, we got several variants from the core Mediterranean climate. We got the coastal Mediterranean, the interior Mediterranean, and finally the semi-arid Mediterranean. They got similar characteristics, but with important differences. The first one is the coastal Mediterranean. The coastal Mediterranean is common in the east and south of the Iberian Peninsula, is this orange stain here. The features are the typical features of the Mediterranean climate. Mild temperatures in winter, basically due to the influence of the Mediterranean and the Atlantic Sea. And they are pretty hot in summer. Here, the influence of the tropical sub-Saharan wind, it is a major factor in temperatures in the coastal Mediterranean climates. As it happens with this kind of climate, precipitations are fairly low, from 300, which will be on the verge of being semi-arid, to 700 millimeters. So yeah, precipitations are pretty low both on the coastal and the interior Mediterranean. The second one, the interior Mediterranean, is similar, but the difference is about temperature variation. In the interior Mediterranean climate, temperature variation is pretty high, basically because winters are pretty cold and summer are extremely hot. The interior Mediterranean is this light brown stain on the center of all the Iberian Peninsula. So yeah, as I said, the main difference is the temperature variation. Coastal Mediterranean temperatures are mild in winter, but with the interior Mediterranean, temperatures are fairly cold in winter. Obviously not as cold as in Central Europe or Western Russia, but they are fairly cold for a Mediterranean climate. Temperatures are, as it happens with the coastal Mediterranean, fairly low. Finally, we got the semi-arid Mediterranean climate. The semi-arid Mediterranean climate is a special climate only found here on the southeast of the Iberian Peninsula and in this area here. This is the desert of the Monegros. The deal about this variant of the Mediterranean climate is that precipitations are fewer than 300 millimeters. So precipitations are extremely low. It's not a desert, but it is on the verge of being a desertic climate. Alright, let's keep going. The next one is the oceanic. The oceanic is common in the north and northwest of the Iberian Peninsula. North and northwest. It is heavily influenced by the orographic rainfall coming from the north, from the Atlantic Ocean. That's why precipitations are pretty high, right? Sorry about that. Here we are. So precipitations are high, over 800 millimeters. In some places, over 1,000. As I point out here, due to the effect of those mountain chains. So those mountain chains cause those orographic precipitations, and that's why rainfall is pretty high here. Temperatures are mild both in summer and winter, so temperature variation, as you can imagine, is pretty low. Next one, the subtropical. The subtropical is a special climate that it's only found here in the Canary Islands. Basically because the Canary Islands are in a low latitude, which means that they belong to the hot climate group. The deal is that in the Canary Islands we can find pretty hot temperatures in summer and also in winter. I just pointed here mild temperatures, but by winter standards temperatures will be pretty high. Temperature variation is pretty low, basically because temperatures are very high through the year. Precipitations vary a lot from island to island. We can find islands with just 100 millimeters and other islands with 600 millimeters. But anyway, even in this kind of islands, precipitations are pretty low. Finally, the last one is the alpine or the high mountain climate, found here in the purple stains across the Iberian Peninsula. Obviously, they are located in the high mountain areas, alright, in the high mountain chains. So in the Pyrenees, in the Cantabric Mountains, Central System. This is pretty different from the previous climates or subclimates. Basically, in the alpine climate, temperatures are extremely low, both in summer and winter, basically because of the altitude factor. As you should know, altitude means, or a pretty high altitude means that temperatures are going to drop, are going to go down a lot, alright? And due to the orographic rainfall, the precipitations are extremely high. So, really cold temperatures both in summer and winter, but pretty or fairly high precipitations all across the year. So we're done for today. Some activities from page 111. I know I'm skipping some parts of the following unit, but just stick with the page and activities. So yeah, we are done. I hope I explained myself, and well, see you around. Bye.